Okay, welcome everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for being here. If you would like to view the auto-generated captions, you can select Show Captions on the bottom ribbon of your Zoom screen. If you don't see the Show Captions option, just click on More with the three dots above, and then you'll be able to select Show Captions. The recording that will be sent out to all registrants will have professionally generated captions and a transcript. My name is Susie Tonini. I'm the school library consultant for the Colorado State Library. For today's Shine a Light on Innovative Practices webinar, I am joined by Erin Olson, who will be presenting support for a future founded on facts. Erin is joined by her colleague Shailene Farnsworth, who will be sharing information with us about the News Literacy Project's fellowship program. Erin is News Literacy Project's Senior Manager of State Partnerships. She began her career as a middle school language arts teacher in Storm Lake, Iowa, and then transitioned to teaching high school, teaching high school English in Sioux Rapids, Iowa. Her interest in meaningful technology integration led her to a position as a technology integrationist for a regional state education agency. Erin supported districts with technology integration, literacy, project-based learning, and STEM. She then returned to her home district to serve as an instructional leader and instructional coach. Erin holds 2 degrees from Buena Vista. Oh, it's hard. Is you say Buena or Buna? We do it both ways in Colorado.
People say it both ways, so it's okay.
A bachelor's degree in English and a master's degree in instructional and curriculum/effective teaching. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to Erin.
Thank you so much, Susie. We are excited to be with you. And again, I'm joined by my colleague Shailene Farnsworth, and she'll be sharing more at the end of this presentation about the fellowship districts and how this looks in the library. Well, let's get started, group. You saw that I put a link in the chat for you. Please access that resource doc. It has all the things and more that I'm talking about today. So the News Literacy Project is a nonpartisan nonprofit education organization. We have free resources, supports, and lessons to help you with your quest to teach news and media literacy. We help people discern fact from fiction in the news and other information that they consume. Again, our resources are all free, and you'll hear me say that often. Our lessons explore a variety of news and media literacy subjects, such as credibility, validity, accuracy, and bias. That link will be continually shared in the chat. And if you haven't got it, you can get it from the screen, but no, it'll be in the chat as well. So what is news literacy? It does fall underneath the media literacy umbrella, but more specifically, it's a discipline within media literacy focused on specific non-ideological principles and teaching. It's a nonpartisan focus with clear learning standards, a dedication to the First Amendment, a conviction that the free press is a cornerstone of democracy. Of course, this promotes participation in civic life. After all, we have to know about the world to care about the world, but our care must be based on accurate information. 3 resources I'd like to share with you today. The first would be our resource library, the SIFT next, and then lastly, we'll go into Checkology, our most comprehensive resource. You can follow me and open up a tab on your computer if you'd like. Go to newslit.org. So from here, I'm going to show you how to get to our many resources. So you'll see that For Educator tab link, click on that, and it's going to open this up. So you're going to see from here a lot of different resources, but I thought specifically for you, in your positions that you would appreciate the infographics and posters, but just know that there's quizzes and slide decks and so much more. So in the resource library, once you're there, you can see those various headings, and I've circled for you that infographics and posters. So we have so many of those, and you can see the thumbnails just from your screen. 6 things to know about AI, that's a great one. I also put in that resource doc for you a link that gets you a bundle. So if you'd like to bundle download, you can surely do that from there. Otherwise, you can go here and sort and sift and shop around for these free infographics that you could place and post in your space. One that I think is especially helpful in your position would be the Google Like a Pro infographic. It's a great one to post in a physical or digital space because finding credible information involves more than just knowing how to Google. But it is a start. So there's all these operators that students can utilize to get at information effectively and efficiently. But it isn't a natural search. They don't always come quick to mind. So having this posted in a place to help them, I think is a great start to better searching. Another tool that I think you will find valuable is the SIFT. So the SIFT is a newsletter. It's free, delivered to your inbox. It's a just-in-time support. It's connected to current events, filled with discussion questions, lesson ideas, learning guides, videos, graphic organizers, so much. But one thing I know to be true from my time during teaching is the world always delivers a curricular conceptual content connection to what we have in our room, what we have going on in our room, the discussions that are happening in our room. And so what a wonderful support to have this resource to help you bridge that connection. There's something new with the SIFT this year, and I think you'll find this especially helpful, and that's the Daily Do Nows. So it's a slide deck each week that serves as a bell ringer for you that has that connection to the topics that come up in the SIFT. And so you can find this linked from the SIFT. Here's an example of one of those bell ringer items that you might be able to use. So this is dealing with AI, having students answer which one is real, which one isn't. And it's tough, and we know that to be true. You can't see this from your screen, but what I see in mine is in the notes section of those bell ringers that are created for you to use, there's instructions. So not only does it tell you the news literacy standard it connects to, it also gives you an educator instruction about display this is the right answer, a little more context for you to be able to use with your students. So again, that's Daily Do Nows linked from the SIFT, and that's new this year. Okay, to our most comprehensive resource that you are able to utilize, that's Checkology. It's an online platform designed to supplement your curriculum. You can get there from our homepage, or you can go directly to checkology.org and register for a free educator account. It'll ask you for your zip, it'll ask you your name, your role, and when you answer, it'll ask you for your school to identify the school that you're in. And if you serve multiple districts, just pick one. That's just fine. Okay, group. You can see from these thumbnails that we have over 20 lessons. Our lessons last anywhere between 3 to 4 45-minute class periods, depending on your design. Just looking at those thumbnails, you can see that they are cross-curricular, that there's a variety of topics and subjects covered, all taught by subject matter experts. So statisticians, journalists, experts in AI. So today, during our time, we're just going to dive into 2 lessons so you can get a taste for what's there. But that resource doc that I created for you, if you scroll down, you're going to see even more lessons found underneath different curricular umbrellas for you to search a little bit easier than diving into all of the lessons at once. So the 2 lessons I'm going to share, info zones and is it legit? All right, group. If you have any questions, please add to the chat. We'll do our best to answer, but I'm going to transition out of my slides and go to a live demonstration now. This is the resource doc I've been talking about. Please note there's the enter for our swag drawing. So please get your self entered into that. And there's an easy way for you to sign up for the SIFT once you get into that swag drawing sheet. So you'll see that once you're there. All right, group, let's get to our dashboard. So I'm already in Checkology. So if you went to checkology.org and you're getting registered, super. But when you get into the platform, you're going to see this, but you won't see classes because you haven't made any yet. You'll probably just see that plus sign. I'm going to show us the content first so you can get an idea of what's there before we dive into how to set up a class. So Checkology, 3 levels of content. You already heard me talk about the learn content. Those are our full-on lessons lasting that 3 to 4 45-minute class period time frame, that's what I'm going to show you first. Those are those 20 lessons. All of our lessons have lesson guides found within Checkology. So info zones, it lets us know that our subject matter expert is Tracy Potts. You can see the objective, you see how long it lasts, you see essential questions. And I love this essential question. Does the purpose of a piece of information affect its credibility? That's a great start to an inquiry lesson. As I scroll down, you see you get a lesson outline. So you know what's coming, you know the instructional moves that you want to make to match that video instruction. And as I go to the last page of this, you'll see the word wall. I also think this is a great support for those of you who are supporting academic vocabulary. If you're working with tiered vocabulary, you can front load that lesson with this information. Now that you've seen the guide, let's get to the lesson. Info zones. Tracy Potts. She's going to talk about information and all the places and spaces and people that get to post and publish. So let's have a listen to Tracy.
When I was starting out in journalism, we didn't have nearly as much information available to us. There was no internet, no email, no texting, no social media, not even YouTube. We got all our information from textbooks, books we bought or checked out from the library, magazines and newspapers we bought or subscribed to, TV shows we watched on just a handful of channels, and films we actually had to go to the movie theater to see. With no access to the internet, we also couldn't share information with a large group of people at one time. What that meant is that only professionals could share information for the public. They acted as gatekeepers, determining what to share with the public and what not to share. But now, anyone can share information, which means that more voices have been added to the mix, including yours and your classmates. It also means that you can't trust everything you read because, well, anyone, anywhere can post and share whatever they want, whenever they want.
Isn't that the truth? Anyone can post anywhere, wherever, whatever they want. So this lesson, as you can imagine, dives into really dives into the zones of information. And back to that question on that guide, the importance of understanding the purpose of a piece of information and how that might impact its credibility, and should we question it based on purpose. I think that sets us down a great discussion with our students, one that we should have, considering all the places and spaces that they frequent and all the places and spaces that they are interacting with content. So all of our lessons follow a backwards design format. So you have this concept, this lesson taught, and then what happens next is a formative assessment. So let's check out an example. Our examples really hit students where they live. So you'll see memes, you'll see reels, articles, all relevant to students. And so we're able to zoom in on that, these types of information, these different pieces of text or visual, and then we can decide, well, what's the purpose? This is an obvious click and drag, and because it is a click and drag, it's auto graded. So after we decide what we think to be so, we hit next and it auto grades and gives that immediate feedback. There are different types of formative assessments found in our Checkology lessons. There are open-ended questions that, of course, one could weigh in on student responses. I see that as a springboard for classroom discussion, but of course, that's up to the educator's design. In the library, we've seen librarians with limited amount of time with students use parts of lessons, push into a classroom and team teach and start this off in a classroom with educators. We've seen this used in a variety of ways to have it work for the space that they have and the time that they have. So know that in addition to these full-on lessons, there's even lessons that are shorter, and I'm going to show you that now. So we were in this learn section. The practice and extensions are also a valuable place that you can go to get content, and it does exactly as it's named, practice and extend. They do extend the learning from the full-on lessons, but also can be used as a warm-up in your space, as something shorter with your design and your learning that with your teaching, excuse me, that you're providing learning for students. So I'm going to show you an example that connects to InfoZones. It's the news or ad. So in this, here's just one piece of, well, I don't want to give away, but article. And as we look through this, there's some markers of, is it a news or ad? Well, we see GE, and what do we know about GE? We look through, it looks very official. And I think this is a great example, because what we were taught when the internet first came to be about, well, does it look professional? This looks so professional. This looks like information, right? We can't use that methodology any longer to determine if something is straight news, straight information, or if it might have an advertising component. And as we scroll to the bottom, and sorry for making you dizzy, we see the sponsor and recognize that logo. So that tips me off when I go up here that I'm going to answer that it's an ad. And it is. So that's kind of what you see in that practice and extension. These quick exercises that you're able to do with students to reinforce those concepts that come out in those full-on lessons. But that section has even more. There's a challenge, and it happens to be my favorite, and I think this will be a favorite of you. So, is it legit? This is taught by Hannah Covington. She is one of our colleagues at the News Literacy Project, former journalist, former educator. And she's talking about how do we verify a source. And so in this portion, I'm just going to show you just this video. She's teaching us about lateral reading and its importance using a TikTok video example. So let's take a peek at this first introduction, and is it legit? One of my favorite lessons found in Checkology.
Okay, step one should be really easy to remember. Do a quick search. I know, it might sound like a no-brainer, right? But doing just one simple search can make all the difference and can often save you from even needing to do the other steps. Now, when I say search, I'm not talking about searching on social media. Be sure to go to a search engine like Google, Bing, DuckDuckGo, and see what other legitimate sources have to say about the news source you're evaluating. This is called lateral reading, a term first introduced by researchers at Stanford University. Journalists and fact checkers use this skill all the time to assess information online. It's a game changer. Let me show you what I mean. Recently, I came across this TikTok video about a dad reportedly helping his daughter practice ballet. Seems pretty fun and harmless, right? But I noticed this label at the bottom that said Russian state-controlled media. What? It was posted by an account called In the Now, which seems to post a lot of these feel-good type stories. But when I go to their profile, all I see is a bio that says, kindness is dope. I mean, agreed, it totally is, but that doesn't tell me anything about this account. So to find out about this source, the quickest and easiest thing I can do is open a new tab or hop over to Google to do a search. When I type In the Now in my search bar, I get a lot of results, but I really want the most credible sources. So I'm going to tweak my search terms and click the News tab to narrow my results. Other news sources clearly call its credibility into question. They say it's controlled by the Russian government and is connected to another source called RT. And hey, a quick search of RT gives us another clear answer. These sources are state-controlled and funded by the Russian government. That means they're not independent or free of government influence, and they can't be trusted as a credible source. So hey, while these videos may seem harmless, we need to be skeptical and critical of everything they publish. That's because state-controlled media doesn't exist to inform you. It exists to influence you in some way, to make the sponsoring government look good, or to make other governments, certain groups, or certain ideas look bad.
Appreciate that example, because I think too often our students are just consumers of their TikTok scroll. Perhaps don't question the creators of the content. Again, but that's not a natural process and a doom scroll that they're just looking. And while this dance video might seem harmless, the algorithm makes it potentially harmful, Because if we're interacting with state-controlled media and we're interacting and spending time with it, we're going to get fed more of state-controlled media. So I think it's a great lesson, but this is a listicle lesson. So this is step 1 of 5. And when I think about the library as a space for, students engaging and learning and having perhaps limited time based on what your schedule allows, this might be one that would work for you. Okay, so I've given you a taste of 2 lessons, and as you can see from those lessons, they're multimodal, they're engaging, they're bite-sized, it's short video, and that's true throughout all of them. This is something that students would be able to do on their own, or you would be able to show from your screen. I just want to point out a few things on Checkology, and then I'll just give you a brief overview how to set up a class, just a real brief one, but know that I've highlighted for you on that resource doc instructions how, realizing my pace is not your pace necessarily. You might want to go faster, might want to go slower. So please note there's instructions highlighted on that resource doc for you to use so you can go at your speed. Now, I mentioned that resource doc, so I want to show you where I got it because that's what I set us off with. I started us with that info zones as I shared that with you. In resources right here, that's where you get that resource doc. And there you can filter by all lessons, or you can go to the lesson that you're working on and you want to see all the extensions that exist. So if I do that, info zones, now I get all the things that go with info zones. As I scroll down, I'm going to point out a few things. There's that lesson guide. There's an awesome visual poster to accompany that lesson. I'm all about visuals, so I do appreciate all of the intentional graphics that we have to support those learning concepts. And then a transcript. We have full transcripts of all of our lessons. So if you need that to help support language acquisition, if you need that for chunking, for modification purposes, or if you need that for transparency purposes, it's there for you. So full transcripts, all of our lessons. So you can see there's a variety of supports to extend that InfoZones learning or to support you in teaching that. Now, the other thing I want to point out would be journalist visits. So I do believe there's something beautiful about humanizing professions, especially those of service. So educators and journalists. Let's let our students meet the people that are doing this work and learn from them. And we can with this program. So this is also free. We have vetted journalists from across the country who are willing to donate their time to help support the learning in your spaces. All you have to do is click on a person. You can filter also by area of expertise, but you click on a person, you can see what they've done, what they've written, and then you invite them and you can coordinate that connection. Again, I think this is really important. Our students can see themselves in this profession. They can ask professionals about the process of writing, about the standards of journalism, and extend that learning. And that is part of that news literacy connection. Okay, Check Center. This, I think, is a great tip for librarians. When you click the Check Center, if you go to the toolbox, I'm going to scroll down. View all skills. I realize that you might not have a lot of time with students, or you might have educators that come to you and ask for certain supports and helping them integrate into their classroom. And here are videos that you can utilize to help teach reverse image search, geolocation, critical observation. That's a great upper elementary lesson as well, about those notices and wonders and what you actually see and helping find truth within something, whether you're doing that critical observation in text or in an image. How to search like a pro, so that connects right back to that Google like a pro infographic that I shared. Levels of scientific evidence, lateral reading, and an advanced lateral reading that I find quite humorous. It's based off of a TikTok where two people are talking about Dasani water and how it's poisonous. It really speaks to the importance of lateral reading because we know what's in Dasani water are actually electrolytes and they're not poisonous. So that's a great one you could utilize as well. So again, I'm just sharing this because I think these are things that would work for you and your with the space and place and the students that you're serving and how you support teachers. All right, group, I'm going to take us all the way back up. So I'm going to give you a super fast showcase of how to create a class, just because I want you to see that it's doable. Remember, I have highlighted for you on the resource doc how to do this as well, a video and text instructions. So if you don't like my speed, you can follow those. All right, add a class. Once we click add class, we're going to title it. And I'm going to be practice 4. Student type, I'm going to go with middle school. Grade level, let's be 7th grade. And we're going to go there. Course lock or on or off. On means students go through the content in the order that you were deciding. So it's on by default. Open advanced settings. I would suggest leaving all of this on. The only one I really want to point out to you is this pre-post assessment. If you don't have a lot of time, you could turn that off, because it will have students engage in a pre-assessment before they start. But we love data, so I would keep it on if you can swing the time. It's definitely worth it. 15 questions, but just a heads up, it'll force them to do it first. One-to-many mode. That means you're the pilot car if you turn that on. You're showing the video of those lessons from your screen. It's kind of blurred out on student screen, and then they do the formative from their own computers. You're the pilot car showing the video. They follow along, do formative on their screen. Right now it's off, but you can toggle that on and off at any time. Do you notice I have co-teachers? That's based on that zip code that you put in and the school that you're in, so you can partner with teachers if you so desire. Okay. So did that, we messed with our advanced settings. Now we're going to create a class. Once we create a class, we have 2 options. We can add our students, or we can assign a course. I like to add content first, so I'm going to show you this way. We're going to assign a course. Because we said that we were middle school and we said we're ELA, we get some default options. So there's already courses made for you. You don't have to start from scratch. You can change course, you can customize this course. When we go to change course, you're going to see all my practice ones. See all the, like, they're named kind of funny. Some of them are. These are all the ones that I've made. But just so you know, when you make a course, you're going to be able to see it year to year, so you don't lose what you've made. Apparently that day I liked ease. So as we scroll down, I've made quite a few practice. You see what NLP has for you. These are the ones that have been created to help support you. By all means, use one of these courses, but I'm gonna make mine from scratch. So get started. It is super intuitive. Once you make your own course, and it's anytime you're making your own, we need to name it again so it'll save it into our own presets. So we have practice 4, and my description is that. I'm going to hit save, and my class is going to be ready to create. Look at that content library on the left. Those are all of our major lessons. And if I keep scrolling, I'm going to see those extension activities as well. So I'm just going to find info zones because that's the one that I shared with you. And I'm just going to click and drag. It asks me if I want to add supplemental courses. And I'm going to say no at this time because I just have time for info zones. And Shaylin, yes, is there a question?
So I know this has come up in the past. When you look at these lessons and want to know what's best for students in middle school, students in high school, how do you do that? How do you know, besides the preset one, which may be upper middle school, maybe not lower middle school, how do you know if it's appropriate for a certain age group?
That's a great question, and I'm glad you asked. So if you look underneath those lesson thumbnails, do you see it? Info zones just has one line. I hope you can see that. It's purple right there and the rest are black. That's because that lesson isn't complex. The ideas aren't complex. Whereas if we look at branded content, that difficulty is more involved because of the ideas that are introduced in that lesson. This is not a Lexile. It's not even necessarily a grade band recommendation, because I call info zones the Leatherman lesson of all lessons because I can repurpose it in a variety of ways. I can use it in 6th grade. I could use it in 12th grade. It's all the instructor's design. But just know those lines underneath, that's really addressing the complexity of the ideas and concepts that are introduced in that lesson. And that's how I approach. I think that's where those lesson guides also are helpful because you can see the vocabulary, you can see the lesson outline, and it gives you an idea, even from the questions, what's happening within that lesson. Okay, so we have info zones. That's our course. I'm just doing that one class for today. And at any time you can add content to your classes, by the way. So it isn't like you have to get it right on the first time you make it. You can feed stuff into your class as you decide what you want to add. All right, so I'm just scrolling down. Look at all of that content, and there's fact checks, all of that. But now that I've decided, I just want info zones. If you want to close your eyes, because I'm going to scroll up fast quickly. I don't want to make you dizzy. All right. I just have to go back to practice right here. Back to practice. There's my course. I can preview it. You can see I have my info zones right there, and that's what students see. If I go to my dashboard now, I'm going to go back to my dashboard, and I call this practice 4. I have 2 practice 4s. When I want to get students in, I copy this link. And when I copy that link, it's going to, and I give it to students, they can use their single sign-on to get into my class. Of course, I can manage students here, where I can roster students. They can use single sign-on with Google or with Microsoft. But the easiest way to get students to the content is to use this class join and then paste it in your LMS or wherever you paste links for students to access. And they'll be in the class and have access to that learning. Okay, so that was really fast. I just wanted to give you a quick overview of how to get in the class, but please note there's a video and instructions on that resource doc if you prefer to use that step-by-step process. And of course, I'm happy to help. If you would need my support, you can reach out. My contact information is on the resource doc. So again, just a recap group, we saw 3 of our resources. We talked about the resource library, where we have quizzes and infographics and slide decks and videos as well. We talked about the SIFT, that newsletter, and I hope you got registered so you can get that in your inbox weekly, because that also includes those bell ringers. Such a great support. And then lastly, the most comprehensive was Checkology. So those 3 things, I imagine, with those 3 things, there's something that we offer that can help support your news literacy efforts. But at this point, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to transition. I told you that I had my colleague Shaylin with me, and she's here because she waved. She is here because she is the director of our fellowship program at the News Literacy Project, and it is a fantastic program. And a question we often get is, okay, that's great, but what does this look like? What does this feel like? How do I get started? What does this all mean? And now we're going to answer those questions for you. So Shaylin Farnsworth, my colleague from the News Literacy Project, director of fellowships, I'm going to pass it over to you, Shaylin.
Thank you so much, and welcome everyone. Shaylin Farnsworth here from the News Literacy Project. And one small thing you may not know about me is I actually grew up in Fort Collins, Colorado. So I have Colorado ties. Excited to be here with you this evening. As Erin said, we are a national nonprofit education organization, and we support districts across the United States in our brand new program called the NLP District Fellowship Program. This began 3 years, where has time went, 3 years ago, as an idea in our heads that we know that news and media literacy is essential for students to grasp those critical thinking skills before they graduate. And we wanted to support districts looking at a holistic approach to the instruction, the teaching, and the learning. Thus began the fellowship program. So our first cohort was formed of 5 districts, and we worked for them with a 2-year commitment to help them create an action plan, implementation plan, and how they could have scalable, replicable model schools across the United States, so that other districts could also replicate that teaching and learning in their own schools and own districts, to take that holistic approach. So something that has grown from 5 districts to this year, we launched our 3rd cohort. We now have 17 districts across the United States, creating these model school districts, impacting close to 1 million students. The lucky thing that you all have is we have a fellowship district from cohort number 2 right there in Colorado. So I brought them here tonight to not only share about their roles, their fellowship experience, but then also the impact on news and media literacy with their colleagues, with their students, and so forth. So I'm joined by Katie and Erica. Erica, I'm going to pass it to you since you have the librarian background here. Why don't you go ahead and share a little bit about yourself and your district and how news and media literacy impacts your role in the district?
Hi. Well, that was a great, Erin, thank you for the run through because I have been diving deep into Checkology and I was like, it was just brilliant. So thank you very much. My name is Erica Young, and this is my 27th year as a teacher. I was a classroom teacher for the first 25, and then I won the lottery, and now I'm in the library. So news literacy, and Katie's going to jump in too, but we live in a really small town. We live in Crested Butte, Colorado, and our district has Gunnison, Crested Butte, and then Marble, which is a dinky school. But we have a K-12 school in Crested Butte, and so our library is actually in the center. It's the heart of the school, as far as I'm concerned. We've got the elementary on one end and the secondary on the other end. So we're always trying to get people to come in and kind of like put on events or like bring collaboration to the library, or how can we get people in here and not just the kids, but my colleagues as well. And so I was talking to Shaylin, and like one of the ways that news literacy kind of just in this last year was I couldn't find the New York Times anywhere in the Valley, not at a coffee shop in Gunnison, which is 30 miles away. We couldn't find it anywhere. So now we have the New York Times delivered. I have it delivered to my post office, but we bring it in. And then we brought a bunch of periodicals in because kids like to look at magazines. And so just trying to find different sources of literature that kids can get their hands on that's not just on their phone. And then Katie is like our fearless leader. She's amazing. Katie Gallagher, who's on with us. And she told us about the news literacy project and that you have this district grant where we can really do something cool. And so in a nutshell, what we're going to do is the 3 weeks leading up to the election, try to do basically misinformation. How do we find misinformation? How do we navigate it with all the kids, all these different crazy things. And so Katie has been an amazing resource, and she's going to talk to you about kind of our layout, but I just finished. It's hard. What I think is hard, this is as a school librarian, what I think is hard is we have all these great ideas. Like, okay, we're going to do this kickoff. Like we're going to, bring them in, and Katie's going to do these stations where you can win prizes and, QR codes to like a rumor guard and then find out what's different. And then they have to do, engagement, just bringing people into the library. But what is difficult is, so I teach middle school technology as well. And so I can hit the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders over the year, because I'll just continue with these Checkology lessons, right? The lateral reading and reverse image search is the 2 things that we're really going to dive into. But we want our secondary teachers to try in the first week, which is October 21st, is going to be our first kickoff week. If they could teach it in their history or their whatever, the social studies teachers, then we can hit all the kids in a 2-day thing with just the lateral reading and the reverse image search, because I think they're so cool and the kids will dive into it, right? But getting them to do something, I mean, Katie is this, if you guys are able to work with her, you're lucky, because she's amazing and she just puts it on a plate. And then, but asking them to teach it, it's like, and here's this great lesson. It's going to hit standards. It's going to, demystify so much of how we're going to be able to do this. And, but asking teachers, and I know I was a classroom teacher for a very long time, adding to their plate is hard. So my goal is that I'm going to co-plan, co-teach, and then they can carry it out when they see this is really easy. You can do this. We can just get it out to everybody. And then continue with things happening in the library over those 3 weeks. Katie, over to you.
Erica, one more question for you before Katie jumps in.
Mhm.
You said that you have been teaching for a long time. Has it always been at Gunnison Watershed?
No, I taught in England for 10 years at a British school. And I taught at a private school in Kansas City. But one thing that is really interesting, why I'm super drawn to this actually, and this is such a cool, the News Literacy Project is, I'm just really, thank you. I'm happy that it's out there. So thanks for all the work you've done. But part of the national curriculum in the United Kingdom, I taught Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. Hinduism, Buddhism, yes. And they teach, there's just little snippets, kind of like a news project thing, so that you realize what's out there, and there's not just that you actually learn about it so that you don't hate, right? And that's part of the national curriculum. And I always just think it's so interesting that we get so bubbled into what we actually know. Like, okay, we're just going to watch Fox News. We're just going to watch CNN. We're just going to watch. So I'm just really drawn to this whole project because it's really just opening up to like, let's look at what the facts are. Let's really like, we're intelligent people. We don't just have to, just because we heard it on TV, cats being eaten or whatever, it's not just, it's important. So.
Yeah, and I mean, you highlight, and I'm sure Aaron would chime in here, our new lesson, and I hope we have time, Susie, to mention this, is all about algorithms and AI, and it talks about those filter bubbles you were just speaking about and rabbit holes and the feedback loops. I would say that's our algorithm lessons, probably for older kids, wouldn't you say, Aaron? Probably for older kids, not
Yeah,
middle school.
definitely. It's upper middle school, high school, and then there also is an introduction to algorithms for elementary that would be for elementary now that really gets at just the basics of it. But the new algorithms lesson would be middle school, high school.
And Katie just sent that through, and I haven't had a chance to look at it since yesterday. So thank you.
Brand new this year. So yes, that's very interesting. And I did not know that you taught in all those different, not only states, but countries. Why do you think kids need news and media literacy skills? Where are they getting their information? What are you seeing in the library?
Well, they get it from, that's a loaded question because we're walking into an election. And I can just tell you this, my daughter switched schools. She's a senior in high school now. She switched schools in 7th grade. And that was right post COVID. And where she was going to school was 30 miles away in Gunnison in our district. And there were kids who were wearing Make America Great masks. And there were kids who, it was just all over the place. But these are kids. They were 12 and 13 years old. And so my daughter, I said to her, because she's going to this new school, it's middle school, making new friends. And I said, honey, you believe what Dad and I believe. You believe what we believe. You hear us talk. You believe what we all these kids, they're believing what their parents, what they're hearing at home, what they're seeing on TV at home, and what they're seeing online. And so they're just kids. These kids can't vote. So meet these people where they are as friends. Do you like them as friends? Are they good, kind people? All of those things. And I think a lot of what I see in the library, because there's talking and, and you hear all the little groups, people are talking about what they're seeing on their phone. They're talking about something that happened in town. Or did you hear about this? My parents told me this. I mean, I feel like so much for elementary, and I mean, definitely elementary, but high school kids, a lot of it comes from their own family base. And so if they question, and I happen to be very strong-sided on how I politically feel, and my kids will say to me, Mom, you're just as bad as the other side. You have to hear everybody. You have to well, let's look at this. They're like, and so it's interesting. It's really interesting, but I don't really have they like to look at magazines. They like to, we've now cut phones out except for in the library. So we don't have phones in the hallways. I mean, not in the halls, but not in the classrooms at all. So I'm like, we have encyclopedias. You guys look at this Unabridged Dictionary. I'm all fired up about it, and they think I'm crazy, but I don't know if I really answered your question.
Yeah,
but
you did totally. I think you nailed it. Kids get it from all different places, all different sources. And it's interesting that you also highlight that kids want others to see multiple sides and bring that
Mhm.
together. That's
I'll
wonderful.
add one other thing though that was interesting is I think that like in my tech class, one of the things I just did a cookies lesson, like what are cookies? And one of my students literally said a tasty treat. And I was like, well, you're not getting one through your screen. And he said, well, no, but I'm just afraid if I don't click on it, that I'm not going to get to go to my Nike website, or I'm not going to. So, and I was like, I have felt the same way until I learned about cookies. And so, that's just tracking. It's just a way to see what other things they're sharing this information. And I think that they're really open to learning about it because they're on their phones.
Right.
So I think if we can teach them ways to, and they're going to be so into this whole like fact checking, and I was telling Katie and Keely, I think a lesson I'd like to use like with the rumor guard is when Taylor Swift got off the plane in Kansas City. And the kids were like, but she wasn't there, but she was in a photo with Travis Kelce getting off a plane. I'm a Chiefs fan from Kansas City, but
Of course.
I know, pre T-Swizz, but so they're interested and they don't want to be fooled and they don't want to look dumb. So I think we have an opportunity to get them.
Right. Yes. Very relevant, engaging, and exactly what Erica was highlighting. And it is on the resource document that Aaron shared. Rumor Guard, it pulls those viral rumors. And again, we are nonpartisan. So you'll see it run the gamut of sources that are appropriate to use in the classroom, appropriate to speak to your students about. And it really helps students hone the skills of how do you identify facts from falsehoods. But Katie, switching gears over to you, because I know Erica tried to pass it to you earlier. What would you say the journey has been with Gunnison Watershed on joining the fellowship, your news and media literacy journey, and how that's become kind of a forefront? And it seemed like it was a perfect meeting of times with everything going on, and this opportunity came about, but it really fits in your district right now.
Absolutely. First of all, Erica, fantastic job. I'm sure you all can feel her energy and just positivity and willingness to jump into all this work and to be on this call today. So thank you, Erica. I was sitting back here giggling because I told her I would try to do the bulk of the talking, but she nailed it. Yes, our journey. So this is our second year in the NLP fellowship. So we're super grateful to be part of this group again. And last year our focus was with a professional development cohort. So Erica was part of that group along with other educators in our district. So we have early release on Wednesdays, and that's kind of our district-wide professional development time. And 6 times throughout the year, we meet with a cohort of folks. Everyone gets to pick which cohort they're part of. And so last year we had a media and news literacy cohort. It was all secondary teachers that signed up. We had social studies, ELA, library, trying to think. I think that was the bulk of who we had, like a STEM tech teacher also. And we really just had the opportunity to dive into NLP resources, to share what we've used, what we've learned, and just really have some broader conversations about topics such as artificial intelligence and then just media and news literacy as a whole. And so that was last year. Felt like a really successful just kickoff for us in our first year to gather that group. We had about 13 educators, I believe, that met 6 times throughout the year. And then this year, our focus in the fellowship is more with exciting events like the one that we're doing at Crested Butte Community School. And so that's kind of our first initiative of the year for our NLP fellowship. So I'm working with Erica and another one of our colleagues, Keely, in planning this multi-week news literacy event, which is intentionally designed to be right before the election and to not really focus on the election, but to really focus on the critical thinking skills of kids and being able to identify fact from fiction, misinformation and disinformation, and really skill building more than anything. And so that's our first event. I hope to have others throughout the year down in our Gunnison schools as well. And that's what we've been up to.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie, so much. And I think you brought up another important part. focusing on those critical thinking skills and ways to identify mis and disinformation that is applicable no matter what they read and what they consume is so important. And that's what we try to do as well. How can we enrich those skills so no matter what they're consuming online, they can use the same skill set to try to figure out if it's fact or falsehoods. Aaron, Susie, any questions you have for us?
Well,
Oh,
I
I
was
just
just,
love it. Oh, sorry.
oh, go ahead, Susie.
I
You
was
go
gonna say, I
ahead.
wouldn't want to live through another election anytime soon, but I love how you are using it as an opportunity to really focus on the critical thinking skills. I know that there are lots of schools that have really struggled with how do we navigate through these waters and keep our community and really preserve our community within our school. Because elections can be really stressful on a school community, and just focusing on that critical thinking piece through these resources, I think is just brilliant. Thank you for sharing, both of you.
Susie, that's very similar to what I was going to share. So yes, I completely agree. And when we think about our NLP resources, of course, we're nonpartisan, and that's really important to our focus on amping those strategies for growing news literacy muscles, because you'll hear us say it often, but we're not about teaching what to think. That's not the game we're in. We're about helping students in their how to think about all that they encounter, and with strategies and skills and even thinking about understanding those red flags and even understanding the algorithm, so we know how we're getting fed what's not real and what's, fictitious. That's what has staying power. I mean, the election is tough, and so I would encourage educators who are concerned about using that as an example when teaching, just trim down and just stick with this. Just go to the strategies. Just go to the strategies. Teach lateral reading and ask students to apply it in other spaces. Practice with what doesn't ignite emotion in our comfort of our classrooms. Use that. What is that one, Shaylin? Birds aren't real. Is that the, we have the birds aren't real lesson, which helps students build those search skills, those strategies for debunking a conspiracy theory. We're not going to get emotionally triggered by that conspiracy theory, birds aren't real. I mean, most of us aren't, right? That's a safe subject to approach and to have that practice in our spaces, in our classroom. So when I was going through the lessons, I showed you the full-on lessons, the practice and extensions. You're going to see it in the bottom category. It is a mission. So when you saw those 3 headings in Checkology, just know it's towards the bottom if you're looking for that. But thinking about, we just have just a few minutes. And so, of course, if there's any questions for me about Checkology and our resources, please ask. But I would love Katie or go ahead, and Erica, you share. But what is just one thing? Like, people listening to this video, people on this call, one thing that you think that they could do tomorrow to get started? What is the easiest one thing? Just one thing.
I think from my perspective, and I'm a district-wide leader, the first thing is just awareness of all of these amazing resources. NLP has their own set of standards. For example, is your content area specialist, are they able to take those standards and connect them to something that's already happening in their classroom? So it's not, again, another thing, but just finding a means to raise awareness and getting people excited, because it's not hard to get excited about these amazing resources. I think for me, that's the first step. So you can see having Erica on board and her excitement and her energy toward this topic it's gonna spread like wildfire in her school, students and staff. So.
The one thing I was like, okay, bouncing all over the place. The Checkology 101, the pre-assessments, I think are super easy for, I had my 6th graders and my 7th graders do them. I think if it's like an easy one thing, like if I'm talking to other librarians and you have them set up in your like we have computers out and you can have a couple set up so kids can just go click on it. I don't know how, because you have to have your own password and you have to have your own login. But speaking of just straight to that, or really easy, like the rumor guard things, looking at, well, it's interesting, the picture with the fists. I picked the wrong one. And so then Katie and Keely and I met, and I was like, but why? And Katie said, well, they're all assigned the same. They look the same. And I thought, well, there was all white hands around a black hand. So it was a statement, like, but it got conversations going. So I think one thing really easy is to take a couple of those pictures and put them up in your library and just say which one's real. I mean, the kids will start talking, and then kids are just talking about, and then you're just standing there saying, and I have a question just quickly. You said there's in the notes for that, like it gives explanations.
Yeah.
I didn't see that. So I was just winging it going through, but I didn't see the teacher
There
instruction
is,
part.
yes. Yes, there is, Erica. So
Okay, great.
just move the thing up so you can see it, but it's there.
Yeah, that's one for tomorrow. Thank you.
That's one. Well, there you go. There you go. Well, I really appreciate our guests that accompanied me. So I just want to give a thank you to Shaylin, my colleague, for sharing about fellowships, and Katie and Erica for sharing their experiences and their work with news literacy. So I definitely appreciate you joining me on this call. Susie?
Thank you all. If you are here today, you'll be receiving a recording link. If you know a colleague who you think would be excited about these resources, please share it. You'll also have a link to the survey. That's how the Colorado State Library shares with our federal funders the work that we do. So I would love your feedback on that. Yes, and please help spread the word. Free resources, and obviously fantastic testimonies from our Colorado folks. Thank you again, Erica and Katie. It's so nice to hear like how this is actually being implemented, and your enthusiasm just speaks volumes. So thank you everyone for being here. Please look out for that email for the recording link and survey. And thanks again to all our guests tonight, and hope to see you at the next Shine a Light.